name. Your name intrigues me. It's number one, it's really beautiful. But then you're called Aumji, and I'll spell it so everyone can hear. It's Aumji, Aumji, which is like Om, like the sound the universe makes. Where does that come from? I have been trying to figure out humans for 25 years now, and I have learned that we are not split into these two groups of being either good or bad people, but that we do find ourselves either operating from fear or operating from freedom, and that can lead down very different roads. Join me on this journey of discovering how to transcend fear and live a life of freedom. In today's Chat with Aumji, we talk about the origin of his unique name and the power of breathwork. Please enjoy the episode. Good morning, Aumji brother. How are you doing? It's great to have a quick chat to you.
Pierre, fantastic to be engaging with you, and what a pleasure. Thank you.
So I've known you for quite a while now, and I have done some of your workshops and you've done some of mine, and I can absolutely say that I have really learned a lot from you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being in my life, dude.
Absolutely, same here. So you've been, during this lockdown period, you've been doing daily meditations, and I've joined you a few times, and it's been fantastic. Thank you for doing that, and very, very well put together, your meditations.
Thank you, dude. I'm really, really, really happy if it finds resonance with you, and if it's helpful. The whole idea around doing meditations every day during lockdown has grown into probably doing meditations every day for the foreseeable future. I might not stop after all this lockdown is over, and the feedback has been phenomenal. So many people have really experienced an improvement in how they view the world, how they view life, and how they experience life because of the meditations.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can understand how people could find it helping them. And I'll put it this way, reprogramming themselves. You know, we're creatures of habit, and your meditations are fantastic in how your voice works and the material that you use to help reprogram people, to help them rewire the brain. So good on you. Keep on going.
Thanks, dude. Thank you so much. What I'd like to start with is your name, and this has been on my mind since I've known you, and I've never gotten as far as actually asking you about your name. Your name intrigues me. It's number one, it's really beautiful. But then you're called Aumji, and I'll spell it so everyone can hear. It's Aumji, Aumji, which is like Om, like the sound the universe makes. Where does that come from? Is it a name that you were given? Is it a name that you chose? I really, really dig your name, dude.
Thank you. So my birth given name is Inogurin. My granny came up with that name, and she's passed on before I realized that I'd actually like to know what that means. And the closest that I've come up with is that it relates to inauguration. So that's quite a powerful name, I feel, but most people come from a non-Indian culture that I associate with, and that was kind of a tongue twister, not easy to spell or remember. And my life changed 22 years ago, and I focused more on spirituality, or I'd put it this way, more development within myself to be more fulfilled in life. And I totally gave up a career, and I started going to India, and in 6 years I spent about 2.5 years in like 7 trips in India. And I also took on a career name before that. I used to be a fashion model. And from Inogurin, I went to Nogan, and I went to Zed. And I felt like it was really strange being on a spiritual path, having the name Zed. So I was up for a refresh of a name, and I put an inquiry out, and I'm going to say to the universe, And I met some gurus along the way, and I had two gurus that gave me names, and both those names didn't feel right. And about a year after asking for a name, it really just came to me while I was in walkabout one day. Aumji came to me, and it was crystal clear right then that my name's going to be Aumji. So Ji means respect in Sanskrit, the root of most Indian languages, and Om, as you do know, is the cosmic sound, and Aum is the Sanskrit spelling, the original spelling of it. So the sound is actually Aum, and that represents all sound kind of fitting into that scale. So the spelling originally, instead of OM that most of us are used to, it's AUM. So that's why the name Aumji is spelled AUMJI. Respect to the universe.
That is so freaking beautiful, and I don't know why the name just makes sense. I never second guessed it when I got to know you, when I got to know you as Aumji, and it just made complete sense. And it's only quite a while after we met that I started thinking, but hang on, there must be a story behind this name. I've never encountered it before, and it made immediate sense to me. AUM being the original spelling of Om, and yeah, it resonates with me as the sound of the universe for sure. Beautiful, powerful name, brother.
And it's kind of a trick, you know. It's like people are calling me Aumji, but it's giving them a chance to say respect to the universe, respect to all encompassing.
I think it's awesome. Really, really, really flipping beautiful, dude. Then just tell us really, we'll get into more details of it. What is it that you do? I saw behind you as we started, you have a couple of words on the wall around breathing. We'll get into more details as we go along. But if you could summarize it in just a few short words in a sentence or two, what is it that you do?
So I coach. One of the modalities that I coach on is breathwork. I do spiritual growth, healthy fathering, and personal development coaching as well. And breathwork has just kind of followed me. As I said, 22 years ago, I changed my lifestyle and focused on inner development. And breathwork has just come up again and again in those first 6 years or so. And I started about 14 years ago teaching breath workshops. And when I look at my life in the last few years, it just drew me into the power of breath work, and now I'm doing them more regularly. I studied a whole lot, and very importantly, I focused on practicing a lot more on breath work. So breath work's a key to help me transform myself from a limited state to an optimal state. And it's an incredible tool that I can associate with mindfulness, meditation, and a strategy of how I can guide other people to relate in a very direct, simple, tangible way that even in 10 seconds a person can feel a remote or a remarkable difference in how they've shifted. Yeah, so it's breathwork is a key to transformation.
I absolutely get you. It's a huge part of what I do as well, and I think many people tend to underestimate the power of breathing, the power of breath work, because we think, well, I have been breathing since the moment I was born, so I kind of know how to do that. So we'll get into more details around that. Give me a little bit more background on you. You mentioned your grandmother just now. Where do you come from? Where were you born? Tell me a little bit about your family, your parents, your grandmother.
Okay, so I am third generation Indian South African. My family comes from South India, so I belong to the Tamil version. So India's pretty much broken up into two mainstream religious groups. I mean, there's the Islamic bit, but generally in the Hindu background, it's Hindi from North India and Tamil from South India. So it comes from a South Indian background. We're home to spicy food. And my grandparents moved over to South Africa. From my immediate family, I was the first one to 22 years ago go to India. So my roots in this life have been pretty much a KZN Indian flavor. And I've grown a lot in the last 22 years by relating more with the roots, So I feel South African Indians, we live quite a modern Western culture, and we've adapted to that a lot, and I felt I kind of lost my cultural heritage, my roots, and when I started going back to India and did quite a few trips there, I learned a lot more of those deeper roots. That being said, I don't see myself as South African. I don't see myself as Indian. I see myself as a spirit being, one that has a consciousness, a conscious being, and I focus on non-difference. So I'm more interested in what's not different between you and me and anyone else. And something that helps me remember that is that our DNA is almost exactly the same. So 99.9% of our DNA is the same stuff. So never mind my culture and where in the world I come from and your roots and anybody else's roots. I think one of the challenges in society is that we are conditioned to look at what's different instead of what's common. And there's so much that's common about us. And I think that's part of healing the self and helping healthy relations is what's the common denominator between you and me? And then there's this amazing brain chemical called oxytocin that can be connected with, because we're social beings. And when we focus on what's connecting us, voila, something amazing, we get a high from it.
That is beautiful. And there's a rabbit hole that I love going down, and that is what you mentioned there. We are kind of conditioned. We've got something built in us that fights to keep us alive, and part of that fighting to keep us alive is the tendency, or the inbuilt tendency to create an us versus them. In almost any situation, us being the people who will help me be safe, and them being the people that might be unsafe. And would you say that the way that you grew up, being South African, being born and grown up in South Africa, but knowing that you have roots firmly in your history stuck in India, having those kind of two worlds as you grew up, and then taking the time to travel to India to go and really feel firsthand where those roots come from, do you think that this kind of living, being born and growing up in two worlds and then exploring both of those worlds, is what brought you to this place of really knowing that, but we are not that different? You're not South African, you're not Indian, you are kind of a citizen of the world?
Yeah, so I feel very passionately that India and South Africa are two of the incredible country environments in the world that's rich with culture and diversity. So India's got over 700 languages, right?
Wow.
And some of them being dialects. So it's got a lot of diversity between how the people look and the food that they eat from South India to how they look and eat in North India, and then across from east to west. And with well over 1 billion people, there's a lot of diversity there. And South Africa's just got an incredible diversity that probably no other country's got, like third generation people from just about anywhere in the world. So I think that's just given me an incredible foundation to get to experience diverse cultures and nuances, and connecting with this, what's typically called the spiritual path. And for me, that means connecting with myself and finding my deeper truth and my essence. And I think looking at your cultures and traveling, so I traveled a fair amount of the world as well, and just seeing the diversity everywhere and focusing on my spiritual development, I realized that actually I can find a place within me that's my essence that is possibly not any different from anybody else. So although we can look different and have different cultures, that intrinsically there's a certain base level of how we can all relate within ourselves that can show us how non-different we are. So it's a lovely variation of, wow, we're so different, and that I become more still. Well, none of this actually matters. I can touch a space within me that anybody can touch, and this is beautiful. We're all kind of the same. In a space of finding inner peace, it's the same peace that we could find.
That is 100% correct. It's the same. When we go into that space of quiet, it always feels to me that if, and I absolutely believe this, but if it's true that God, the universe, is inside of us, then I have to believe that when I find a space of silence inside of me, and you find a space of silence inside of you, then we have to be connected through that force that flows through us. Recently, you and your wife have had a new addition to your family. You have a baby girl. Tell us about that. Tell us about her. What is her name? Tell us a little bit more about your wife. What is your wife's name? What is the name you gave your daughter? Would love to know.
Never mind me, never mind my wife. Yes! We have this incredible baby that was born in our home 5 months and 3 days ago on the 16th of January 2020. Her name is Mira, which represents miracle to us. Our mum has got, Antonina, has got her reasons why Mira is a miracle for her. And I am ecstatic. If there's any area of my life that I feel enriched, fulfilled, jubilant about, and I hear it in my voice, I feel it in my body language. I'm ecstatic that I'm a father to Mira, and I've got this gift of how I can show up. There's some background to not being present for other children that I'm father to. So with that background, it's even more a gift of life to be Mira's father and to engage with her many times every day of her 5 months and 3 days on this planet in the physical.
That is so beautiful, man.
To Mira.
That is absolutely beautiful, and I love her name, Mira, and you say Mira represents miracle.
Yeah.
Is it only short for miracle, or does the name Mira have any other significance? Does it come from anything and anywhere else?
Yeah, so there's some powerful women legacies that have been left by women with the name Mira. Of French background, of Jewish background. I think there's a Lebanese woman that has been highly accomplished, and there's There's Mirabai, who comes from the Krishna, Lord Krishna legacy, and there's a Mira, I think from the 14th century, that's been a poet and a dancer and a writer, and the names of my 3 children have each been kind of chosen from, I'd say, a higher mind, not just myself that's channeled names, and Mira comes from that. We looked into names before birth, and this is my 3rd child, and I told their moms, each of them, that I'm not so interested in choosing a name before the birth. There's a lot of energy that's relating to this child that's being born or just being born, and I'd like to honor that energy and relate a name into that. So I'll just backtrack a bit. My son's 18. He lives in Austria with his mum, and his name is Shantidev Noah, and I think most of the audience would know what Noah would represent. Shantidev means God of peace in Sanskrit, and he was born in a very peaceful way. He didn't cry. He was born at home early in the morning, in the quiet hours of the morning, and it was a very peaceful, serene environment that he came into, and he came absolutely peaceful. And I told his mom, like 4 hours or so after the birth, his name's Shantidev. That was my strong suggestion. And she paused, and she said to me, yeah, his name's Shantidev. So that one clicked. And when the mother of my 2nd child was in labor, I did a yoga session, and I asked for a name to come to me, and I got this image of a tree that just looked kind of like the tree of life, and I saw the reflection in the water, and it kind of reflected as above, so below. And the tree that came to mind was the Bodhi tree, the tree that the Buddha was enlightened under. And in India, the Bodhi tree, and in Tibet and lands like that, is very significant and kind of represents the tree of life. So my daughter's first name is Lucia, which in Latin is bringer of light, and her 2nd name is Bodhi. And Bodhicitta is the knowledge, and Bodhisattva is the aspirant on the path of enlightenment.
That's
and Mira,
beautiful.
And Mira, I must be honest, when Antonina said, it's your department, you choose the name for this baby, I'm like, well, that's pressure that I don't feel like taking on. But I got her as to why she asked me to choose the name. And I must say, I sickled. I felt nervous about, where's this name going to come from? How can I kind of get it right by getting myself out of the way and listening to the message that came back. And Mira, the name came together pretty much by Antonina and I engaging. And I said, miracle felt right. I got this message a few days before the birth. And I looked at what would be the equivalent in French or in Sanskrit and stuff like that. And the name didn't quite sit right. And I discussed it after the birth that this is the name that comes to me, something relating to miracle, but I don't know what it actually would be. And Antonina came up with Mira for miracle, and we were like, yes, thank you.
That is so damn beautiful, dude. Absolutely beautiful. And there's a lot to be said for what you said. How do you get out of your own mind? How do you get out of your own way and let the universe flow through you and bring you some wisdom? And I think that kind of brings us back to where we started off, is talking about breathwork and about the work that you do. So let's get back to that, because I might forget to actually speak about the breathwork. I enjoy chatting to you so much, but I want to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity to speak about what it is that you do. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about breath work, about breathing, or about breath work? What's the biggest misconception that people have about that?
Yeah, so some people, when engaging them about breath work and breathing, some people put themselves down, I'd say, and say that I don't actually breathe. And what they are most likely meaning is that they're breathing shallow and they're not using their breath in a constructive way and are breathing through a default way and are not optimizing how they could be breathing. So breath work is powerful because it links us to the nervous system, which for me is probably the most important part of transformation, the link with the nervous system. And it links us with the emotion as well. So breath, nervous system, emotion, they're all intertwined. So I can shift my emotion from being disempowering or indifferent to being empowering, and that alone can give me energy. I can calm my nervous system down from being connected to my sympathetic nervous system, which relates to my survival structure, my reptilian brain, and I can move more to my prefrontal cortex. I can use the capacity to engage choice, and I can choose a more optimal response to my situation and to life. And that can all be linked to how am I breathing, how can I shift in the way I'm consciously breathing? Or firstly, how can I become aware of what my breath, what it's doing or not doing, and how can I consciously use my breath to help me be more emotionally empowered and to calm my nervous system and to look at my best option of how I can respond to a situation. So breath work it's key to mindfulness practice, it's key to meditative practice, it's key to transformational shift. It's key to being balanced and centered.
I like how you said choice. That it sounded like you were saying breath work makes choice available to you. We all think that we have freedom of choice. We all think that we have free will. And it is debatable to what extent we do have free will and to what extent we are really being controlled by an old program, our own old program. And if you are being controlled by an old program and your decisions, in other words, are then predetermined, do you even have free will then? So how you said breathing, breath work, focusing on your breathing, it sounded to me like you were saying gives you the opportunity to have choice. What do you mean by that? How does breath work or breathing bring you into a space of having more freedom to choose than you otherwise would have had?
Okay, so nothing better than practicing. So I've had an answer that's come up while you were talking, but what I can choose is to take 2 conscious breaths. And what that's done is it's given me space away from just being plugged into my mind and what comes up in my mind and how I can just run with that response. Now I've created space between that mind wanting to run the show and how I can be more open, that there's more possibility of how I can respond. I even hear in my voice, and I'm even noticing how I'm pausing and I'm speaking slower. That's helped me calm my nervous system, and it's key. It's key for overall health to have a calmer nervous system. It's key to decision making to have a calmer nervous system. So those that direct organizations, those that are in leadership positions, I would generally see them as being more cool, calm, collected. And if I backtrack, then quite likely their nervous system is more relaxed than the average person in the organization. And putting it another way, if I step further back, I can see a bigger version of the picture. I can see possibly a panoramic view of what's available in front of me. And that's where I can make a decision that's more optimal instead of my default behavior and habit based on the condition, as we were saying just now. And I firmly believe that we respond to life based on our conditions, on our habits and past behaviors. And researchers again and again said that 95% of what we do is based on our subconscious mind, and how we're on autopilot and having default reaction to life instead of pausing. So breath can just help us drop into that pause instead of moving immediately into default behavior. And in that pause, which meditation and mindfulness uses again and again as an anchor to create space.
Well, you're so spot on with what you're saying, that 95% of our day is controlled by our subconscious mind. We're built very energy economical, and our subconscious mind just does not consume that much energy. While, as you've mentioned just now, your prefrontal cortex, when you're operating from that space of conscious thinking, that consumes a lot more energy as well, and also it is slower. Our subconscious mind is much, much faster, and the moment we do get caught in a survival state, a little bit of fear, a little bit of pressure, being caught in that survival state, we are 100% fully operating from survival patterns in that subconscious mind. And I love how you explained how breathing eases you out of that sympathetic nervous system and gives you that space. And that space is the only thing that gives you freedom of choice. If you're not in that space, you are reacting from old patterns, and it means your decisions are predetermined already.
Yeah. So I love the name Curious Pierre, because I have a lot of respect for curiosity, and it allows for that space once we pause and use something as simple, as dynamic, as practical, and as available all the time as breathwork. We can fall into a space, we can create space and be curious about how we can respond. And that's such a game changer.
I love how you say that. Being curious is a game changer. The moment you are curious, you are certainly not in survival mode anymore, and you see with more clarity because you have a curiosity to want to see with more clarity. So getting back to the breath work specifically, when you speak to people about breath work, what is it that people tend to think breath work is? Do people by now generally have more of an opinion of what breath work is, or are people still disconnected with what that might mean? What do people think? What is breath work?
So three things are coming up. One is that there's a lot more curiosity about the power of breath work because of coronavirus and how it affects, or some would say attacks, our respiratory system. So people are looking into how they can build their respiratory capacity and build their immune system. And another is how people kind of underestimate their own power and put themselves down. And earlier I was mentioning, some people say, yeah, well, I don't actually breathe. And people are becoming more curious that, yes, actually, now that I'm getting to know more about breathwork, obviously I do breathe, especially when there are breath specialists like yourself and myself that relate to people that if you're not breathing for 3 or 5 minutes, then your brain's going to cease to function, your body's going to pack up, and you're going to end this life as we know it in the physical. So there's a lot more education going around, which leads me to my third aspect. I love this. So the most recent I feel in the world, and we still in South Africa are catching up with it, is, we've come across IQ and EQ. Now we have the chance to realize that there's BQ, breath intelligence.
That is awesome.
and the beauty is that I can ask somebody to give me 30 seconds or 3 minutes or 10 minutes, and I can offer them an experience of doing 1 or 2 fairly simple breath exercises, and have them acknowledge that they've been changed by just doing these exercises. So I love it. It's a modality that is tangible. You can drop into an experience that, okay, yes, I have to admit that I've changed, how centered I am, how poised I am, how I've paused, and how I'm just kind of, my brain's working differently, my body's feeling different, emotionally I'm feeling different. So it's a fantastic modality to relate to people and to coach people on, either formally as a breath coach or even to bring it into other forms of coaching.
That is awesome. So I know that you have touched on all of these points, but to make it clearer for anyone listening, what are the top 1, 2, or maybe 3 reasons that a person should pay more attention to their breathing or to breath work? 1, 2, maybe 3 reasons why should a person pay more attention to breathing?
A person can be more energized through breath work because the body uses a fair amount of oxygen. But more importantly, the brain it's a central processing unit, and the brain thrives on oxygen to be more alert and to be more optimal in its performance. So it increases energy of the body and the brain. It helps us be more centered and be more present, which is the only area that we can transform, is what's happening right now. There's no past or future that is actually reality. So it helps the person connect with what's here and now. And the third is that it's a wonderful de-stressor, debriefer, and that I'd love to share a little just now about the power of a debriefing, de-stressing, releasing anxiety breath technique. Simple, powerful stuff.
That's great. Do you mean that you'd like to share a breathing technique with us? Okay, great.
Yeah, so Pierre, the one of the challenges I feel in the world is that teachers, especially ones that are eloquent, we possibly, and I said we very likely like listening to ourselves and like hearing our own voices, and sometimes we talk about, or most often we talk about something that's transformational and powerful. And I think we also are moving into a default conditioning of human beings that's giving a lot of information, and we're in this information age where we're inundated with information left, right, and center, and people are overloaded. So to give a practice, I feel, would be one of the best things I can do during this interview. So that's why I'd like to share at least one practice with our audience.
Brilliant, dude. Thank you so much. So what I'm thinking is, I think we are moving towards the end of this session. And then, so what we've still got coming up, if we've got the practice, you'll take us through a practice. I want to ask you a question of, what are 3 things that people can do differently? And it's up to you to decide. Would you like to go through 3 things people can do differently before or after the practice?
So I'm not sure what those things are, so maybe after the practice.
After the practice, okay, great. And then I loved the way you said it. 2 things came to mind while you were speaking there. Number 1 is, it's an old little quote that we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. which means we should be listening twice as much as speaking. And I really enjoy that. And I firmly believe I have really enjoyed growing up and entering something called the information age, where we just have so much information available right on our fingertips. And when these things became really popular, and before these I had an old Nokia called a communicator. It flipped open like a little laptop, and I had a full keyboard there, and I could, doesn't matter where I was, if I had a question, I could flip this thing open, get onto the internet, and get an answer to my question. Like on my fingertips, I had the world's knowledge. The information age was amazing. However, we have now firmly entered the too much information age. And it is my belief that if humans don't become really good at learning how to go on an inner journey, how to quiet down a little bit, learn how to really be human beings. If we can't all, as a collective, start doing better at that, then we're going in a very dangerous direction, because the information is, number one, too much. We are overloaded, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to know what is even true information and what is just completely false, because all of it starts looking the same. The false information, the true information, they all look true. So yes, please. So coming towards the end of this interview, if you could take us through a technique, that would be great. If you could then give us 1, 2, or 3 things that people can do differently after listening to you, and then we'll wrap up with your information and stuff after that. That's over to you, Aumji.
Fantastic, Pierre. Thank you. So there are many powerful breathing techniques that I feel I could help people with. However, this one's super simple, and I think it's probably the most powerful thing. So I've also paid attention and studied and researched different breath specialists the world over. And this is a technique that comes up again and again. And in my personal experience and my wife's experience of being with me and attending many of my breath workshops, she said that the one technique that she connects and uses and has been a game changer for her life is being the sigh of relief.
I like that a lot.
So I believe in, and then maybe I'll kind of end with these 3 points of what I could give as a takeaway. One of the most powerful areas of empowering ourselves is to let go of that which is not serving us. And so the sigh is a wonderful little technique I would call it a superpower that can help us just to shake off, to debrief from stuff that's hanging around, that's clinging onto us, either mentally or emotionally or even physically. So I offer us the space where we can just sit upright, round the feet, and I invite you to close your eyes. So the closing of our eyes can really help us to go more within, and I believe there's a whole world within. So just tapping into connecting with your own world, maybe just observing where the body feels stress or feeling uncomfortable, possibly even feeling pain, where the mind might be unsettled, or an emotion might be niggling. And connecting with the breath, firstly observing it, and then breathing slightly deeper, breathing in slightly deeper, and breathing out with a closed mouth sigh. Let's do 3 more of those. So everyone's breath is of a different length, and just going with what feels right for you, slightly deeper breath, and breathing out with a sigh. Maybe 1 more with a closed mouth. And then breathing in maybe even deeper than that, without trying too hard. You want to stay relaxed, you want to stay at ease, and breathing out with an open mouth sigh. Let's do a few cycles of that. With the emphasis on letting go with the out breath. So, attempting to breathe in comfortably, slightly deeper with each breath. And you might even want to move into a mini pause, a little pause for a second or two or three. And as you breathe out, so like a child would, just totally letting go. Let's do this about 3 or 4 more times. And each time you let go, just surrender. You don't need to know what you're surrendering, but just let go. So I invite you to do this 2 more times. Whatever comes up, to let go, just totally just like a balloon, just deflating the balloon. Let's do 2 more. I'd like you to drop into a deeper experience. And 1 more. Breathe in even deeper, and notice that you might be breathing deeper without making much of an effort. Being curious as to how long you can hold that breath. So just kind of hang in a non-breath without trying to hold a breath. When the pressure builds, just let go. And then connect with being aware of your breath as it naturally is. And just observe. Is there a difference? And when you're ready, only when you're ready, you can gently blink your eyes open again.
Yeah, it definitely is a deeper and more easy flow of breath, flow of air now than before we started the exercise. I really enjoy that so much, and I I often feel as though I like this sigh of relief. I never call it the sigh of relief, but I'm going to start calling it this now. I build it into every meditation at the start to help people come into a place of presence, and it always feels to me that specifically dropping your shoulders, dropping your head as you exhale, it almost feels like the universal sign of surrender, the universal sign of just putting everything down and coming into the present moment.
Yeah, we could probably do an hour of guided meditation similar to this, and only using this technique. We hold a lot of tension around the shoulders, the neck, the lower jaw, the forehead, the temple area, and the sigh. As you said, you help people release the load that they're carrying on their shoulders. So we figuratively and sometimes literally have just got so much tension in these areas, and the sigh of relief really helps us just debrief the body emotionally, mentally. So I'm glad you've connected with a deep experience and want to use the term sigh of relief. I'm glad I could share that with you.
Absolutely, thank you. I do learn from you, brother. I absolutely do learn from you. If there are a couple of things you can share with people, 1, 2, 3 things of what they can do differently after listening to you today, what can they do differently in terms of breathing?
So
or just being maybe.
Earlier about the information age and that we've moved into the overload of the information age. One of the pillars of my teachings is discernment. And you were mentioning that it's really important for us to know what to take on, what to say no to, what's true and what's not. And there's one way of kind of knowing that. Within ourselves, there's a wisdom, there's an innate wisdom that kind of knows that I'm being bullshitted, or this is sitting really deep and this is true. And that's the power of discernment. And if we, each one of us, give room for that, give space for that, and just address everything that's coming to us. Is this empowering me, or is this disempowering me? Is this confusing me? Is this conflicting with my empowerment? With me keeping things simple and using what's practical for me and what's for me to use now. And sometimes it might be useful, but it might not be for now. So discernment is I'd say a key for us in this age to take on kind of the less is more, to take on less so that we make more of it and be more empowered. So
Beautiful.
I'd say discernment is the key.
Beautiful. I like that, discernment. Yes, sir.
So there's three pillars that I generally use in an overview of my teachings, and I love that because a few years ago it came clear to me, and until now there's nothing else that's come through as clearly as that. So the first is release that which does not serve one, and the sigh of relief can actually help us release. And there's other techniques of breathwork and mindfulness and meditation that can help us release. And so it's generally patterns that disempower us, that have been coded into us, either from behavior that we picked up, habits that we picked up along the way of how we've been programmed by others that influence us in our young years, to what we've repeated for ourselves and what we've chosen for ourselves, and how our perceptions keep us, I'd say, trapped in holding back. So I believe what's within us is holding us back, or what's outside of us can set us back. So release that which is holding us back or setting us back. And that is a huge sphere, and it's difficult to even dissect it right now, but I just hope that the audience is getting an idea that there is stuff that we are choosing to run with that program and to live our lives that is disempowering us. So it would be key for us to release those patterns. So release is the first thing. The second is empower. And so they are, in the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill says something along these lines, and I'm paraphrasing: "Thank you for the gifts given to me at birth. I ask not for more riches, yet to use those gifts to manifest what I want and desire."
That's beautiful.
So that relates to that there is empowerment within me, that I don't even need to try to get more from life, to gain more wisdom, to gain more knowledge, to gain more expertise. Already I've got something really powerful. So empowerment, one part of it can relate to how can I kind of backtrack and look at what are my gifts, what are my talents. And then empowerment can also mean, what can I take? So there's breathing techniques that are really powerful, that can give a person a high that they've almost definitely not experienced from any drug or alcohol or anything that's a stimulant from the outside. Just by breathwork, one could experience the highest highs I say this because I experience this every morning. I do a practice every morning, and breathwork is a key part of this practice, and I go into experiencing incredible highs. So we can take on techniques that we can learn from others, learn from our environment, learn from colleagues, learn from teachers, coaches, that can help us back up the empowerment that we have innate within us. So those two can overlap beautifully to synergize and to have us driven in a more optimal way as we get more alignment. And the third one is grace. How can I actually get myself out of the way of trying to get things, trying to do things, trying to master things? And how can I allow for that space for grace to fall into place?
I love that a lot. So I'm going to recap that again. You said the 3 pillars that you use is number 1, release. Release what does not serve you. Number 2 is empower. And I like the way that you said that. It is inside of you. Connect to what is already inside of you. And the more deeply you connect with what's inside of you, the better you'll be able to add skills and tools to what you already have. And then the third pillar being grace. How do I get out of my own way and tap into the universe?
Yeah, and that third one is, I would say I'm still learning the power of grace and the power of surrender and the power of listening. So in different religious and spiritual backgrounds, there is the prompt, be still and know. And this is why I love meditation, and this is why it's another key part of my practice. Is how can I quieten my busyness, my analyzing and sometimes over-analyzing, and how can I just settle into spaciousness so that I am more guided? And that's why I feel like this is like really key and challenging for especially somebody like myself that facilitates and teaches other people. How can I be guided more, and how can I allow for that space? How can I just settle into, I'm going to say even settle into nothing. Sometimes I feel the best thing I can do is to relate to how I know nothing, is to remind myself that just clean the slate, nothingness.
Absolutely.
So I give space to be filled with something that is just innately wise and powerful.
Aumji, summarize for us, please, what your services are. What is it that you do? If you could summarize, if anyone would want to come into contact with you, what are your services? What is it that you do?
Okay, so there's an aspect of employee wellness, and there's a leadership development aspect that I'm still working on. So there are corporate wellness modalities for wellness days and for empowerment workshops and a mindfulness course. To the public, there is similar mindfulness course. It's an 8-week program. There are empowerment workshops, transformational workshops that I do that last everything from 2 hours online to 4 5-hour workshops to a day's workshop, and some of them are namely breath power, release that I covered a little of, being peace that is more meditative, increasing productivity, so workshops like that. And there's one-on-one coaching. The coaching involves breath coaching, personal development, healthy fathering, and spiritual growth. So I love, one of the tricky things for me has been to, there's the wise teaching that they'd rather have one niche, and there's enough people that can want your services. Just keep to one niche. And all of that's been a wisdom I feel that I've got experience and expertise and training and background to help in more than one area of focus. That's why I'm a coach that's got a bit of a variety. And with each one of them, I feel a passion. I feel there's room to add value in that coaching environment, and that's why I offer my services.
Awesome, brother. And then what's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you? I will add that into the bottom of this video as well, in the notes below the video. But what are the easiest ways for people to get a hold of you?
Okay, so really easy way. I've started a brand called Wellness with Aumji very recently. So email address, wellness with Aumji, spelled Aumji, @gmail.com. Facebook page called Wellness with Aumji. And a cell number, so I'm very open to people dropping me a message or WhatsApp or giving me a call. International +27 73 294 3064.
You just
073 294 3064.
All right, we've got all of that. Brother, this has been such a cool conversation. I really, really, really enjoyed this. The truth is that there's a lot more that I'd like to get into with you. So I can definitely see us doing this again soon. I like to really get into the weeds of humans and humanity and where we are at and where we are going. And I didn't get into any of that, and I'd love to hear your views on those deep subjects. So I think we must set up another one soon.
Yeah, Pierre, I absolutely love this. It's incredible how time flies. So yeah, I'm keen to do this again. I'm keen to even interview you so I can share with my audience some of your wisdoms. Before we go, just what's come to mind is that we are all, as the human race, we're all given an incredible chance with the appearance of COVID-19 and lockdown. It's given us the chance to take the healthy pause and to check, how am I living my life? How is my neighbor living? How are we as a community supporting each other, or how have we individualized and how have we put up big fences and walls, and how we've isolated? So it's given people a chance to actually check in with their hearts and with their intuition, and to check, do I actually want to contribute to something greater than myself and my nuclear needs and my immediate focuses, and is my job that important that I put so much of my energy, and I'm tired to do other important things in life. I think some people having the plug pulled right out, that they could not go to work at all, have given them a chance to see how they could add value in other areas of their lives and build relationships at home, which I think is a key area in our lives. Is how are we engaging with those we live with our families, with our parents, with our children. So it's a wonderful opportunity, as much as it's challenged us, having people's lives around us being lost or threatened. It's a wonderful blessing in disguise, and I love it because there are more people that I've found that are willing to pay attention to how they could grow themselves, and are more open and curious and willing and taking steps of how they can engage with coaches and counselors and be part of social upliftment programs and feeding schemes. I love it. Thank the universe for giving us this opportunity to grow ourselves.
I think you're spot on. I absolutely feel a shift in how much more seriously people are taking their own personal growth. And I think that is beautiful. And I think you are so right that this last couple of months in the world has pressed it on people a bit more closely, a bit more personally, that we all need to pay attention to our personal growth.
I'd love to just drop one little message to the audience. Mindfulness focus, instead of looking at the cup as being half empty, looking at the cup as being half full. So instead of going, what's wrong with the world, or what's wrong with my world, or what's wrong with me in the world, what's the solution? How can I be the change I want to see in the world? How can I lead by example?
I love that,
so
dude.
Hopefully we're leading by example right now, and we're helping others get a few more practices and mindfulness awarenesses of how they could grow themselves and be more awesome human beings. Because intrinsically we're awesome. And we work well together as a unit.
I find myself speak about that almost every day lately. How can I be the change? How can we be the change? How can you be the change that you want to see in the world? I love that. On that note, brother, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this discussion with you, and I think maybe the next one we do, that should be the theme. We've all spent so much time at home, locked up. How have we dealt with that? How have we dealt with ourselves? How do we choose what is the world that we want to go back to?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great speaking with you, Pierre. I wish everyone a wonderful day.
Alrighty.
And please feel free to be in touch, even if it is just a quick message or a call of inquiry to get to know me better and what I do. And sometimes services are not always affordable. I do offer mentorship, and I do offer free consultations, so feel free to be in touch.
I'll make sure that all the details are at the bottom of the video. Aumji, have a great day, dude.
Thank you so much, Pierre. You too. Ciao, man.
Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
I want to remind you that what is inside of you is a fearless creator. You were created to create, and the only thing holding you back is your own fear. If you want to be supported on your journey toward embodying the fearless creator that you are, then you really should consider joining One Mind Academy. Right now, you can join for free and receive support daily. From there, you can choose to join the Fearless Creators for weekly meetups, and if, in the future, you need private coaching, you will already be connected. Just go to www.onemindonline.com, that is onemindonline.com, and click on Join One Mind Academy to see what it's all about. When you own your breath, nobody can take your peace. Listen to this again. When you own your breath, nobody can take away your peace. The science on this is really clear. The moment you place your attention on your breathing, you slow down, you specifically exhale slowly, your nervous system starts switching from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system, which means switching from fight or flight to rest and digest. Sometimes this can happen really fast, and sometimes we have to stay with the calm breathing for a while. You have the power to tap into the power of your breath at a moment's notice, multiple times a day. Stop. Pay attention to your breathing. Specifically pay attention to slow exhales after a deep breath. And just feel how slowly your nervous system switches. This was hidden track number 1.